He's here in the shed.
I do feel
Oh,
home now.
don't stop it.
we're recording.
You're listening to
Moonraker.
Do you expect us to talk? I'm not really sure whether I expect us to talk anymore.
No.
Is this a sign-off?
Is
Is this it?
Is this the end? Is this the last episode?
Yeah.
That's the
Final
end
episode.
for Do You Expect Us to Talk?
Well,
Well, I think we've reached peak.
I think
peak
we've reached
cinema.
The best,
There's
the
no
best
point
movie,
anymore.
To be honest.
But Tom, Jack, and Alfie will return in Tomorrow Never Dies? For your eyes only. That's the end of our review. I hope you enjoyed it. What did we think?
That was epic.
I love it. I really like I like the scope. I like the scope of that movie. They have like 8 different locations. One of them is a space.
Yeah.
What
Filmed on location, if the credits are to be believed.
What do you want from a movie?
Oh, Christ.
It's also got a nice message of space Nazis are bad.
Mhm.
Yes. I'm glad we got that as a takeaway.
I think we can all agree that space Nazis are bad.
Yeah. So, from what I saw on the Wikipedia, there was apparently a version that they tried to make in 1955, starring Orson Welles as Drax.
Wow.
And the actor they get to play Drax has a lot of Orson Welles in him.
I thought Moonraker, the film we actually see, resembles nothing of the original Ian Fleming book,
Yes.
I believe.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
The book does not have them in space, I don't think.
No. In the book, he's a Nazi instead of being a space Nazi.
It's just your run-of-the-mill Nazi.
Yeah, just a common old garden Nazi. This film is surreal.
Yeah. Because the previous one, what was it called? The one with the submarines?
For your submarine only.
Yeah, that one.
The Spy Who Loved Me.
The Spy Who Loved Me. It had really goofy moments, but this one was like this is just a comedy now. This is just like watching Austin Powers. Like we are now in full sort of parody mode.
It's relentless. This movie is relentless. It's just it's only action scenes in wacky locations with wacky resolutions.
Opening scene before the opening title. Jaws falls from an aeroplane and his parachute doesn't work. Oh no, James Bond steals his parachute, but he lands in a circus and survives.
And that's what sets you up for the rest of the film.
These characters aren't real anymore. They're just
No.
We're watching a cartoon at this point.
Jaws is basically Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, he's immortal like Bugs Bunny.
Like Bugs Bunny. It's so silly. It's so silly. None of the different locations really link up with each other at all.
They were just literally like, where could we go?
Where do we go next?
Where do I want to go on holiday?
None of the
Venice.
scenes. None of
Rio
the
de
scenes.
Janeiro. A French chateau in America.
Mm-hmm.
The Amazon rainforest.
Yeah,
and space.
I reckon some of those locations were reverse engineered from the fact where they were like, you know what will be fun is if there's a gondola chase scene. So therefore, let's have this be set in Venice.
Imagine having a gondola / hovercraft chase scene.
That was possibly the best scene. We actually we rewatched it.
So far.
Tom was like, we have to go back and watch that again.
The gondola turns into a hovercraft.
And then drives through the main square in Venice.
Yeah, and you see various people in the crowd reacting, including a dog,
a pigeon does a double take.
A man who believes his wine is laced with psychedelics. Yeah,
I say nice little callback.
I say
me as well.
I say this film is surreal because none of the sequences really have any bearing or relation to the ones before them or after.
That's what makes
it's not even like word association. It's just pure dream logic. It's just where can we go next?
That's...
What's gonna happen after this? How can we just keep the energy going without any story.
Any story at all. That's what makes this era of James Bond films so good. Is that you could just leave in the middle of the movie and come back, and the plot will not have progressed. There'll just have been another action sequence, and then it all gets revealed at the very end. The secret plot, which is we're space Nazis and we're gonna wipe out the Earth and create a new master race. And then there's a little fight at the end and some corny dialogue, and that's it.
I think it's also fun.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful format.
I think it's also fun how obvious the sort of corporate takeover of the James Bond franchise is at this point as well, because they're about the whole sequence in Rio de Janeiro is just covered in these enormous hoardings and billboards for various different brands that had a major funding role for the film. 7-Up, Marlboro. There's a watch brand as well, isn't there? There's like Rolex or something. British Airways, who one of their ads has some significant screen time, and in fact is one of the goodies that helps take down Jaws. So thank you, British Airways, for defending the free world.
There's a surprising lack of cars in this film.
Yes, that's a good point.
He doesn't drive any cars, does he?
No.
Well,
He just
he
drives
drives a
boats.
spaceship.
And spaceships.
It's difficult to talk about this movie because when we start...
If someone described this movie to you, you wouldn't believe that it was a film.
Because it's also like, oh, what funny moments can we talk about in the podcast? And then, okay, well, there's that pigeon that does the double take. But then you're like, okay, well, just before that, also, there was a man in a coffin in a gondola, and then the coffin opened up, and there were knives, and the man threw the knife at James Bond. And every single scene, when I think about it, I'm then reminded of what happened either immediately before or after that, and it's just as crazy. Like if I trying
before that, there was the guy he fought in the glass factory.
in trying to bring up funny things about this movie, it's just I just say everything that happened in excruciating detail and be like, oh, that was weird.
Basically, there's no point in us making a zany podcast about this, because this
just
movie
go watch
is
it.
zany and you should watch it.
Very interesting to have the redemption arc of one of the villains. And the arc is a 5-minute sequence of a 2-hour movie. In the last 5 minutes, Jaws becomes good. Spoiler alert. He also gets a girlfriend who looks like fucking Pippi Longstocking.
James Bond reminds Jaws that he's working for a space Nazi, and that Jaws might not look like the perfect race that this space Nazi is envisioning. And Jaws is like, oh yeah.
Fair point.
Fair play.
Fair cop, go. I'm going to work for you now.
It's also implied that Jaws is still on the spaceship when it blows up at the end, and it's implied that he survives.
Yeah.
With his new girlfriend.
With his new girlfriend. My headcanon is that he just hugs her and then is blasted in the explosion back to Earth, and he takes all the force and survives somehow.
Yeah.
Also, is she supposed to be super strong? Because they meet because he's in the rubble of a big 7-Up ad, and then when he's trying to lift himself free of all the sort of this massive machinery, she helps it off him. So I wasn't entirely sure if she was also supposed to be super strong or what. But
I don't know really what her thing is, because she also doesn't speak, so I thought maybe she couldn't speak, but then she does. She whispers in his ear at the end.
Yeah. We also hear Jaws eat. Eat? He doesn't eat.
He eats
speaks.
metal.
He's cable car wires.
Cable car wires.
We hear him do the other thing that people do with their mouths. He speaks, and he says, "Here's to us, baby." And then he and Pippi Longstocking just accept their fate and reckon, well, as long as our favourite person, James Bond, gets away, we're fine just burning to death in this fucking wreck as it crashes back into the atmosphere.
Well, that's why they had a little Bollinger, not because they were like, "Oh, this is our last one before we die." It was like, well, yeah, fine, we'll explode in this space station, but obviously we're gonna survive.
Yeah.
Because we we do that now.
Yeah.
The Western section.
Oh, Christ.
For
That's
reasons,
just
for reasons
incomprehensible.
entirely unknown. James Bond is in Brazil, but then starts wearing a poncho and
They
sort of
play the
cowboy
fucking
hat.
music from the big country.
They play the theme from the Magnificent
unedited
Seven.
theme from yeah. That's it. Sorry.
And then he goes to a monastery.
He's
That is
in,
actually a secret MI6 base.
He's in no. So in the sequels before, this is what I mean by how nothing has any consequence. In the sequence before, he's in an ambulance that is run by the baddies. He's been tied up. He's with a chica that he's just been getting his rocks off with.
CIA agent,
Dr.
Goodhead.
Goodhead. And he managed to break out of this ambulance. And instead of, having any intention of going after Dr. Goodhead, he just decides to roam the Wild West with his hombres.
He falls out the ambulance. The bad guy goes on one of those hospital bed things down the road through the British Airways ad. And he's just like, oh well, and walks a couple of steps.
Yeah.
Listeners are not going to understand at all.
Hard cut to him in a poncho, like is Clint Eastwood on a horse with two other guys who are also
We've
dressed
never met.
in ponchos. And then he goes, as Alfie says, to this monastery, but they're actually secret agents, and they have space guns because they
monks
clearly know that there's going to be a final set piece in space.
There's martial arts monks people going on.
The fighting martial arts thing is strange. I think it just is a kind of a callback to Man with the Golden Gun. And that film was because in the year before they made that, everyone got really into these Hong Kong kung fu movies. And then this film was produced because everyone got really into the Star Wars movies. You really feel the market forces at work in this film, as I've said. They're just going along with what the audience wants, and nothing really works thematically or in terms of narrative. I wouldn't even describe it as a film. It's more a sort of montage, a compilation.
Kurosawa made a movie that was like just his dreams. It's like 7 of his dreams.
Yeah.
And it's like this film. That's what Moonraker's like. I don't know what's going on, but it's pure. It's pure.
It's just
cinema.
like Kurosawa's film because it's got a samurai in it as well.
And that samurai ends up in a piano, and Bond says, "Play it again, Sam." And I'm like, that's not even.
Yes, the Casablanca reference.
That's why you're in Venice.
We're in Venice right now.
And then James
zero
Bond
reference.
and then James Bond has another stupid line that makes no sense when he defeats the villain by sending him into space, and Dr. Goodhead's like, oh, where's our guy? And he's like, oh, he had to leave. Oh, no,
He says he had to fly.
He had to fly.
He had to fly. And as I said to the boys, almost immediately after he said this awful
It's not
line,
a joke. It's not a
completely
pun.
flat.
What is it?
Not a joke, not a pun. There's nothing going on there. He should have said he needed some space.
Yeah.
He needed to get some space.
You had it right there.
Just chuck him out of an airlock into space. That you put space in the line, which is something that people actually say. There's a pun there. That's humor. The audience can hear that and think, yes, humor. He had to fly. Makes it sound like there's some weird Cronenberg shit he's been turned into
Which would not
winged
be
insect.
Out of nowhere for this film.
Well, exactly. It would seem like compared to what we've seen for the last 2 hours, it would seem like a completely reasonable end to this space Nazi baddie. There's quite a lot of. There are a few good lines, like the "Hold on, James, And what's his reply?
I'd thought of doing that or something
Yeah,
like
I
that.
know-
The thought had crossed my mind.
The thought had crossed my mind. That's funny. When he's holding on, he's hanging off an edge, and she says, "Hang on, James." But most of the lines are just so flat, just kind of. They're unironic. They're unintentionally funny. They took Tom Mankiewicz out of it. He was a big influence on most of the earlier ones, and probably why they make a little bit more sense. The whole thing was written by Christopher Wood. Oh, who did The Spy Who Loved Me?
They're a little pair.
Yeah, they're definitely quite
make-
goofy. There's
Yeah.
you
They
get
make
Jaws in both. You get the Russian dude in both.
They both go to random places the whole time.
The main villain is just bonkers.
Hang on, James.
The thought had occurred to me.
We have a series of Bond girls in this that all say their lines in a very flat way.
Oh, every single Bond girl in this film is completely affectless. They're like serial killers.
We've got
but there's a lot-
Helicopter Lady,
Yes.
who works for the evil man. What's his name? Drax.
Drax.
And James Bond Bones gets information from, and then she dies within a matter of seconds. It feels like they waste no time. Just
no, there was quite a long sequence where she gets eaten by dogs.
Yeah.
Oh god. There's sort of dramatic, spooky Halloween style strings in the background.
Yeah, and sort of lighting
I think-
through the trees and
Yeah,
sort
I
of
think they just
smoke.
wanted
Very
to
cross off
mysterious
every
lighting.
single genre in this film.
They really did.
It's a Western horror film
It's
in
a space film. It's a kung fu film. It's a romance. It's a it's every type of film except for an espionage film.
I think Dr.
There's
Goodhead
so
worked
much
alright.
going
I liked
on.
her.
Dr. Goodhead worked at the beginning.
She went dry. She was just dry sake through most of it.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
worked quite well most of the time.
But
The
it
other
was
Bond girls did not work at all.
she was a little bit like Pussy Galore, where she's far more interesting when we meet her, and James Bond is like, ha ha ha, you're sexy, and she's like, yeah, fuck off. And like that dynamic I enjoy, where James Bond finally finds a woman who seemingly doesn't want to instantly bone him.
She kept going back to that, but then also not doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And then she does in the end, and it's a
She
bit
did
like,
both.
oh,
She
well
did
now,
both the whole
now
time.
you're not as fun a character anymore. But she, she's a CIA agent who knows about space. She
also
knows
an
she knows how to fly a rocket. We've got a Brazilian secret agent who's in it for a minute.
Yeah,
and
what
then
happens to her?
she goes in house arrest.
He
Gallivant
says, "Oh,
thing once again.
you just got your arms gripped really hard, and it seems to have taken it out of you a little bit. Just have a lie down. I'm gonna fuck off to space."
Yeah.
Is that where he goes?
No, he goes to the cable car chase scene. For
Oh,
Yeah.
There's a lot of shagging in this film.
Mhm.
A lot of babes that he gets through. Is it 4, 5?
It's for
We've got 4. One of them being
the one
like
at the beginning.
yeah,
Okay,
pre-credits
it's
lady.
3
so it's sort of
definite.
three actual.
Yeah, 3 confirmed kills.
Oh.
But what I like is that we get Helicopter Lady, then Dr. Goodhead, then Brazilian agent, then back to Dr. Goodhead again. Like we think she's out of the picture, and then comes back.
Oh, no. Yep.
Yeah, as you say, they sort of have a. It takes a while for them to realize they should work together, despite being,
Yeah.
MI6 and the CIA.
Yeah.
Like, why would you not?
MI6 and the CIA at the height of the Cold War, Britain and America, and for some reason there's this sort of cat and mouse game going on between them. Have they not heard of the special relationship? Why are we supposed to believe that this is happening? And his bestie Felix Leitner is in all of the films before this one. Played by a different actor every time, even though he's always presented as if we're supposed to recognize him. So we already know that he's on good terms with the CIA, which is presented as these sort of hapless buffoons throughout the whole series of films so far, and not the murderous, evil bastards they were at this period and still are. But yeah, and Dr. Goodhead comes along. She's like, "Ooh, I'm a space engineer, and I don't like you talking down to me, so I'm going to jeopardize my entire country and the fate of the human race just to get one up on you." Very odd. Very odd. I don't know why they put that in.
Yeah, he is also unnecessarily like, oh my goodness, a woman, and you call yourself doctor?
You're a female doctor? He's run into so
Like,
many
really
female
comes of
secret
that.
agents by this point. I don't know why he's so surprised. He's fucked so many of them as well. He can't have forgotten them all. Although most of them are completely useless. Yeah. Dr. Goodhead. Just
Yeah,
the
IT
audacity of
doesn't,
naming the main female romance as Goodhead is they really,
he doesn't force
They had-
himself or hit any of the women in this film. But so that's a plus.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
always nice.
A low bar.
Always nice to see that in a Bond film. No violence against women is
Yeah.
always a plus.
They're just very scantily clad and
Yes.
and all that.
From the most exotic locations on Earth, Moonraker will transport you to another world.
Anything else we want to talk about?
No, I think that's good enough.
It's a crazy film.
It's a ride.
That's all you can say.
There's something
It's a
I want to talk about.
ride.
Roger
It's
Moore was
fantastic.
diagnosed with kidney stones, having previously suffered from kidney stones.
Well, during this movie?
During Live and Let Die. Yeah, filming was greatly delayed for a lot of scenes because his kidney stones were too bad.
Oh.
So, as a reminder to all of our fans to engage in sounding. Take a nice... Start with sort of 2mm
No.
length width glass
Stop.
rod.
Bye guys. See you.
you want
Catch
to
you next
gently
time.
insert it
for
up the
your
urethra.
ears only.
Yeah. I think this has been a good review.
Is that how you?
That's not how you prevent kidney stone. I think
Is that
that
how
is
you
one of
deal
the
with
treatments.
kidney stone?
I think that is a treatment. I think
Oh,
sounding
there's
is mainly
a-
to do with prostate.
There's a classic Friends episode where Joey gets kidney stones.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Joey's Matt LeBlanc.
I don't think you could get to the
And I think they
kidneys
stick
through
something
there.
up his penis.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What,
Is
the
it
rest-
shown
the rest of the gang?
on screen?
As in
yeah,
as
you
in-
get
as
to
in
see
fucking
Matt
Ross
LeBlanc.
and the other characters whose names I
Yeah,
can't
you know,
remember.
Ross, Phoebe, Jennifer.
Aniston.
all the gang.
What's the name of the other guy?
Surname.
Howard.
The wrong one. Jennifer. The wrong Jennifer.
Which one's called?
Howard's the Big Bang.
Which
Big
one?
Bang Theory.
Which is the one-
Seinfeld.
which is- Jerry Seinfeld is my favorite character in Friends. Which is the one that was always saying Bazinga.
Bazonga.
Which was the one that's always saying Yabba Dabba Doo. Oinks oinks. Oh man. Oh, school. Yeah, sounding. That's something we need to see a lot more of in the Bond films. He has not even
We didn't see
come
enough.
close to caring about prostate health in his films.
I felt like in the Sean Connery films, we saw a lot of him topless. And I don't think we're getting that enough with Roger Moore.
No.
Now
I think Roger
may
Moore's not comfortable
that
with
may
the top
be
of, is
because
he?
he's
Yeah.
like 47 or whatever in this film. So maybe he doesn't have the sexy chest that Sean did, but
How old actually was he?
Quite old.
They used bottle rockets for all of the space shuttle launch scenes. Also, the space shuttle launch scenes in this film, this is another little bit of trivia, were filmed before they launched actual space shuttles.
No way.
Yeah, it was before the beginning, because it's 79, and I think I think the space shuttle program officially began in 79. So they didn't actually know what it looked like when they launched. This is the first time people saw space shuttles launching.
That's mad.
Well, yeah, I mean, they clearly had a lot of information as to what they look like.
He was 52.
Whoa.
Your dad's James Bond.
He looks good for 52.
Yeah, he looks fantastic for 52.
And he's still got a few movies left. Like 3 or 4.
Well, Roger Moore lived until 2017. That's a long
recently.
innings. He was.
He wasn't still James Bond at that point.
No, he wasn't. If he was still making movies.
He plays
James
M
Bond
in
now,
all
yeah.
the more recent ones.
It would be great if he played M in all of them. That would be a fantastic little cameo.
Yeah, which reminds me that Q has such a gross line that I won't even repeat it on there.
Oh no, you should.
Oh, I loved it.
To offend viewers.
No, when they were banging in space, and it's once again put on camera. Happens at the end of every Bond film. Q and everyone's like, "Oh, I wonder what James Bond's up to. Let's put the camera on." And he's inevitably given sweet religion to whatever secret agent he was supposed to be killing a few minutes earlier. And the ambassador or foreign minister or something says,
some important
"What
bloke.
is James Bond doing?" And Q says, "I think he's attempting re-entry, sir." You get it? It's like the penis. It's writing like that makes it all worthwhile at the end of the day.
Well, I guess that's all, folks.
Yeah, we've already signed off at the beginning, so
That's very true.
Say anything more?
Yeah.
Where are you?
Why do you hide? Where is that moonlight trail that leads to your side? Just like the Moonraker goes